6:45 a.m. Tuesday. The murmur filling the air of the conference room was decidedly strained. Something serious was in the wind, but none of them seemed to know even remotely what it might be. The intermittent wailing of the factory whistle was unnerving and irritating. Eyes snatched stealthy glimpses of the wall clock, their owners anxious for the meeting to begin. Here were gathered the top men of the largest industry of its kind in the world. Here were gathered those who made it tick, the lawyers and scientists, accountants, engineers, inventors, and mathematicians who, under the leadership of John H. Patterson, had built this firm into the largest privately owned company in a thriving multi-industrial metropolis. These were the first-line executives of the National Cash Register Company. Not all of them were here, Behringer hastened to explain to the president 1 minute before the meeting was due to begin. Some had unaccountably failed to arrive at work that morning. Patterson nodded, not surprised. Perhaps, he said softly, getting to his feet, more may come in a while. Come in while our meeting is in progress. You've called to have the whistle blowing stopped until this meeting is concluded. Yes, sir, and I've left word at the offices of those executives not yet here that they are to report immediately upon arriving. Good. Come along. The pair entered the conference room, and the voices stilled. Behringer took a seat in the front row, while John Patterson stepped up on a low dais and stopped beside an easel holding a large black tablet, standard equipment in every conference room and executive office at NCR. He picked up a heavy black crayon and swiftly sketched a neat pyramid of boxes, filling them with the initial names or initials of various executives. In the top box, he printed JHP. While he was doing this, 3 more executives stepped into the room and quietly sat down. Patterson turned and looked at the stenographer, a young man, at a table to one side and nodded. Take down, he directed. Gentlemen, he said, a great disaster is going to fall on Dayton today, and we must get ready for it. This sketch, he rapped the chart with his knuckles, represents the organization known as the National Cash Register Company. As of this moment, I declare NCR temporarily out of commission and proclaim this. He hit the chart again. The Dayton Citizens Relief Association. There was an immediate low murmuring among the executives, and astonished, even unbelieving glances passed between them. However, their respectful silence quickly returned. They had long since learned 2 things. First, that John Patterson always had a good reason for what he did, and secondly, that people who interrupted him inconsequentially did not long remain NCR executives. We here at NCR must prepare to house and feed the people of Dayton who will be driven from their homes when the city suffers a severe flood this morning. He paused, and an executive stood and was recognized. Sir, he said, this is a very startling thing. We are all aware Dayton has had considerable flooding in past years, and never before has it required even limited aid from this firm, much less the literal conversion of the entire company into a relief organization for the city's population. What is there about today's possible flooding that makes it any different? How can you be so sure about it? that you can willingly suspend our entire manufacturing operation and convert to a relief association. He paused and then blurted, before anyone apparently needs relief. Well, now, Patterson said curtly, using the phrase that always presaged controlled anger on his part. For one thing, I have studied the lay of this land in the Miami River Valley for years, and I have always known that this was coming. I don't know how the city has escaped a wholly devastating flood this long, but I do know it will escape no longer. To answer your question specifically, however, our riverbanks, levees, if you will, are low. I have never had any faith in them as flood preventers. Land drainage, particularly above the city, is poor and the runoff high. The easiest way for this water to escape is through the city. Yet our river channel is nearly twice as wide where it enters Dayton as where it leaves. A severe bend in the main river occurs at the edge of the downtown district, and 4 rivers converge within 1 mile of this same downtown district. Through the years, an abundance of debris has built up in the riverbed in Dayton, helping that much more to retard the natural flow of the water. Had they been planned by a committee of expert hydraulic engineers, the existing conditions could hardly have been made better or more conducive for the occurrence of a great flood. The tops of the levees are approximately 15 feet higher than the streets of downtown Dayton. And, gentlemen, he said flatly, I have just returned from an inspection of them. At this moment, the rivers are ready to run over the tops of these levees. The resultant erosion will cause serious breaks, and Dayton will be inundated today with the worst flood ever suffered by any major metropolitan area in the United States. Many of you, he added, glancing at the clock, have wondered in the past why I chose to build this company here on a hill overlooking the city from the southern outskirts when most other industries are closer to the downtown sector, and as a result, better situated to railroads, principal highway arteries, and the Miami Canal. It was no accident, gentlemen, I assure you. I did it because I have always expected what is happening right now. He stopped talking and looked around the room. The executive had seated himself, and no one else spoke. He continued, I did not call you here, however, to ask your opinions on whether or not NCR should become a relief organization for the duration of this disaster. I called you here to tell you your roles in it, and each and every one of you will play a major part, believe me. Commissary, a thin, bespectacled executive near the rear said, Yes, sir, and stood up. There will be a need for bread. Have 1,000 loaves. No, 2,000, baked immediately. Have your cooks ready 500 gallons of soup, more if possible. Prepare to serve all food supplies we have on hand and more. You're excused. Hydraulics, another executive, 2 seats from the first one, stood as the latter left. There will be a grave need for drinking water. City water will be no good within an hour or so. We will tap our own wells. He pointed to the pumping station in the field west of the factory. If that is shut off, we will have no water supply. I want those engines kept running at all costs. Post a permanent crew there beginning now. Excused. Purchasing. He was speaking rapidly now, clipping off his words sharply and causing the young stenographer to scribble frantically in order to keep pace. The portly executive sitting beside Behringer got up. Dispatch every person you can to the surrounding countryside and various areas in the city. Buy all the staple items of food you can find. Send trucks and wagons to the communities south and east of us: Centerville, Xenia, Lebanon, Franklin, Miamisburg, Middletown, Mason, Cincinnati, to buy the same items there. Also, buy every cot, every bedstead available anywhere. Buy out all lots of blankets, pillows, work shirts, and trousers, cotton dresses, shoes of all sizes, boots, coveralls, gloves, hats. Excused. Communications. His gaze centered on the young executive, who snapped to attention. Immediately, using all available telephones and runners if the phones are inoperative, call every principal city official, mayor, police, water, fire, electric. Call every civic leader of note. Call every military office. Inform them of what we are doing here. Ask their cooperation and help in all matters in my name. Excused. Medical. A tall, gray individual stood, one of the three who had arrived late. Send out every man you have, plus 100 good men selected from factory shop departments. Have them pick up all available drugs: aspirin, iodine, bandages, gauze, dressings, tapes, what have you, at every drugstore, pharmaceutical supply, and hospital. Tell the hospitals what we are doing here and request that word be sent to every doctor, nurse, medical attendant, or technician to report to NCR if at all possible. Contact Coroner John McKimmey and inform him as well. Set up 2 emergency rooms, an isolation ward, a morgue, a nursery, a maternity ward. Excused. Sanitation. No one stood up, and there was an uncomfortable shifting of feet and clearing of throats. Behringer shook his head, and Patterson jabbed a finger toward a departmental supervisor. Your sanitation for the time being. Secure wherever available all the disinfectant you can find. Establish a constant watch over the NCR sanitation system to prevent blockage or backup of pipes. Excused. Security and fire. A huge, grizzled man with a kindly face rose from his seat. Yes, sir, Mr. Patterson. Handpick 50 men from among the foremen and job foremen not already engaged in emergency work. Brief them fully as an auxiliary but functioning police force. They will act as guards in and about the plant, prevent possible theft, rioting, and looting here and elsewhere. No dispersal of firearms, however. Also, form a fire extinguisher brigade and regular fire patrol. Excused. For the first time, he paused to look over the remaining faces, then pointed to a thin individual near the front. Transportation. Locate every employee owning or capable of securing a motorcycle. Have them assemble at the garage and stand by as runners. No inexperienced men for this. It may be extremely difficult driving, even for the best. Secure every truck, every car, every wagon possible for transportation of goods and refugees. Supply each with a driver from among shop workers. Excused. Woodworking. There will be a grave need for boats to rescue marooned people. Draw up plans and templates for an easily constructed, flat-bottomed, stable rowboat that will safely seat 6 plus the rower. Start turning out boats and oars within an hour. We'll need at least 200 of them. Excused. Safety. Once again, no one stood up, and Patterson pointed to another departmental supervisor. You're it. Organize a force of volunteers for rescue work. At least 300, better 500. Start them immediately toward the slopes leading up into the higher levels from downtown. They are not to walk closer into town than that. The water will reach them soon enough. They are to remain at the high water mark, effecting rescues among the citizens wherever possible. When the boats are built, assign men to them to penetrate flooded areas, concentrating mainly on moving people from precarious positions to safer positions. They are not to begin carrying marooned people to high ground until all those in highly precarious positions are moved to safety. Excused. Electrical. Dayton's electrical service will go out quickly. Transfer NCR service to the emergency generators immediately. Excused. The room had cleared out considerably now, but Patterson didn't pause. Services. This building will be headquarters for everything. Basement for clothing salvage, disinfecting, and dispersal. First floor for food service. Second floor, relief operations and military headquarters. Press also, since they'll be here quickly in large numbers. Third floor, general hospital. Fourth floor, maternity and nursery. Fifth, sixth, seventh floors, sleeping areas for men. Put cots, beds, and pallets in every available space. Eighth floor, barbers, cleaners, laundry, other services. 10th and 11th floors, women's quarters. At last he stopped and brushed at his mustache with a knuckle. A dozen men were still in the room. Gentlemen, he said, the rest of you and the men beneath you will be called upon for various tasks. Questions, ideas, plans, all will be taken care of through Mr. Barringer. I will be spending the day on Main Street at the north foot of Fairgrounds Hill, where the water will reach by noon. You are all excused. As the men left the room, he stepped to the table where the stenographer finished the last of his shorthand scrawls and flexed his hand slowly. Patterson squeezed his shoulder and smiled at him. Good job, son, he said. The wall clock clicked to exactly 7 a.m. In 15 minutes, John H. Patterson had smoothly converted a large industrial firm into a many-faceted emergency relief and rescue operation for victims of the Dayton flood, and the real flooding had not yet even begun.